90.9 KCBI. I am Lori in studio with an entire crew of people. We have got KCBI winners right here. Hello, you guys. Hi. Okay, a little bit more enthusiasm next time. And I also am so... And next time came early. I love it. We have also got some of your favorite hometown guys right here, the gentlemen of MercyMe. You guys, welcome to KCBI.
Thanks for having us.
We're gentlemen around, aren't we?
Yes.
You are gentlemen, yes. Welcome. And you guys are here on a mission and purpose because there's something really big that is premiering, that is happening in all of your lives right now. What is that?
Well, we have a movie coming out Friday. What is today? Is today Thursday? Tomorrow. We have a movie coming out tomorrow called I Can Only Imagine. And so we're all over the place trying to promote the movie and get people to go see it.
Now, I first heard this song when I was a senior in high school.
Well, that's great.
Yes, and it struck me then. And I tell you what, working in Christian radio and coming back to Christian radio, there is something so true about the lyrics that you wrote, and it's now becoming a movie, but themes of redemption and awe of God. Can you tell me a little bit about what it's been like to see your song become a movie?
It's been weird and surreal at the same time. We were approached about 8 years ago, a producer in California that heard me tell a story on stage and just thought that there might be a movie there, and we didn't believe her, and so we were like, all right, good luck with that. And for about 5 years she would call about once or twice a year saying, hey, we still haven't forgotten. And we were kind of like, well, we have, but we just didn't think it would ever happen. And then about 3 years ago the Erwin brothers got involved and the script started taking shape, and I think that's when it dawned on us, oh man, this is really going to happen. And so just kind of that nervous fear of digging up everything I've been trying to bury most of my life, and not only digging it up, but putting it on a screen and in a book, and I came from a broken home. My dad was really abusive, and until he was diagnosed with cancer when I was in high school, he fell just madly and deeply in love with Jesus, and to where by the time he passed away, he was a completely different person. And so, Imagine was written after my grandmother said, I can only imagine what your dad's seeing in heaven, and I became consumed with the idea, just trying to get me through every day of seeing an empty bedroom. And then eventually we, in MercyMe, wrote the song, and I feel like I've been hanging on for the ride ever since.
Wow.
Yeah.
When I first heard that song, I just remember falling to my knees and being in awe of God and that moment to stand before him and to be in heaven completely whole. My dad is handicapped, and I think about him being completely whole, maybe running for the first time. Yeah. And that was such a personal experience for me with the song and the lyrics. And as you've seen your song now come into a movie, the theme of redemption and forgiveness is a strong one. Yeah. What would you want to communicate to somebody walking into the theater that's never heard your song before but is seeing your life on that screen?
Oh, man. Probably the thing I'd hope that they would take away from the movie is we all have people in our lives that we've probably written off thinking there's no hope for them and that God can't reach them. If you would ask me, I would have said my dad 100 times out of 100, but here we are talking about this crazy redemption story. And so, I think that the biggest thing would be like as long as we're breathing, our story's is still being written. And who are we to assume that someone's out of the reach of Christ? And sometimes we think that of ourselves. And man, we have so many reasons to keep hoping because we're still alive, and we don't know how it's going to turn out. But the one thing we know for sure is no one's out of the reach of God's grace. Just kind of just selling him short by assuming that people can't be changed. And so, there's always reason to hope. If we lose hope, we're done. I was going to say hopeless, but that's kind of double. Yeah. I got to think of a better phrase than that.
We are bitter people without hope.
There you go. That's good.
Yes, we are cast down, eyes cast down. Well, thank you for writing this song and being faithful to continue to share it. These guys are strapped up with guitars. They are ready to play this song for you live. We're going to come back in just a moment, and you will hear the song I Can Only Imagine live right here at 90.9 KCBI. MercyMe live in studio right now here at 90.9 at KCBI. Whoever the mathematician is in the group, can you guys calculate how many times you have sung that? Just, off the top. What's the number?
Like 100?
It's our 11th time. Yeah, gosh, who knows? A billion times.
A billion times. A billion times. And it is now going to be premiering in theaters, the story of Bart, your life, the story of redemption. And this movie really was made possible by the Erwin brothers. And we have got one of them in here. They're known by the brothers,
Erwin.
but we've just got one of them right here. We'll get a mic on you.
Yeah.
So I am so curious, what about this story and this movie you wanted to make and you wanted to bring to audiences all across the U.S.?
You know, it was just really kind of meant to be. The best stories kind of find you. You don't really go out looking for them. And so we were doing a screening for music artists of one of our other films. And just on a whim, I invited Bart and the guys to show up at the screening that night. And did not know about the movie, being, when we first invited them. And they showed up. And afterwards, Bart was talking to me and said, I don't know if you know this, but there's a group of people that have been developing my life story as a movie for the past 5 years. Would love for you guys to consider directing it. And I said, well, I don't know if you know this, but they sent us the script this morning.
Oh.
And it was just meant to be. And
Yeah.
We were doing a morning show for another radio station down in Tampa and talking off the air. And they said, what are you looking at to do next? And I said, well, off the record, we're looking at Bart Miller's story. And he said, oh my goodness, I was at the Ryman that night when Amy Grant pulled him up on stage and gave him his song back.
No way.
And we called Bart. We're like, did this happen? He's like, oh yeah, I forgot to tell you guys about that. I'm like, lead off with that story next time, bro.
Burying the lead.
And so it was just a God thing, and it's just been a treat to bring it to life.
Now, you've done a lot of different movies,
Yeah.
but what about this one and the message that whatever time God has allowed, if it's been 8 years, 3 years, but
Right.
this is the time that God has brought this message forward. What is that?
It is so, the timing of this story is so amazing to see how it's just touching people's hearts. I think the first question we asked the guys was, we said, what does that song deliver? I mean, I can only imagine it transcends a piece of music. And like you said, people who equate it straight to a time in their life that they desperately needed something. And so we asked them what it was, and Bart said, unquestionably, what it delivers is a rush of hope. And when you need it the most, it is just that kind of that rush of hope. And so we designed the movie to kind of just put a megaphone to that message of hope. And once you understand Bart's story, I mean, you ask somebody about, I can only imagine they go straight talking about a time in their life that they needed it.
Totally.
And it's their story.
Yeah.
But to be able to complete the journey and show what happened in Bart's life to create that desire for hope has just been amazing. And the father-son story, Dennis Quaid, just absolutely kills it in this role. It's just an amazing transformation. He said, I've never played transformation like this on film before. And so really proud of the story, really proud of Bart's vulnerability in telling it.
Yeah.
And I think it has a lot to say.
Yeah. Well, hope is definitely something that here at KCBI, we want to peddle that. And it's not the hope in us or
Yeah.
what we can do or
Right.
our own hustle. It's the hope in Jesus Christ. And so thank you for putting that megaphone there. Thank you for bringing this movie to life.
Absolutely.
Seriously, we are so excited to be able to see that. And we will continue speaking with the guys, the gentlemen, the ragamuffin. We'll land on something. We will continue speaking to them in just a moment. Well, stay with us here at 90.9 KCBI. I have got MercyMe here in studio, and I have got Andy Erwin, the producer of the movie that I'm sure you're going to rush out this weekend to see as it premieres a lot of different theaters here in Dallas-Fort Worth. And by the way, if you are watching us live on Facebook, or is that Facebook Live? I don't know what that is. We are live. You can see the guys here in studio. You can see what they're wearing today. It is a sight to see. When we were off air, it's piquing their interest, guys. I'm learning this, piquing their interest. Yeah. Okay, so when we were off air, we were talking with Dr. Erwin here.
Dr. Erwin.
Producer Erwin,
Way too
director
formal for
Erwin.
film
Yes, Sir Erwin.
Yes.
And there was a story about I Can Only Imagine that you had, and I wanted you to share that.
It's just a song that continues to have personal stories connected to it. I mean, if you look at our Facebook page, out of the tens of millions of times the trailer's been viewed, underneath there are about 300,000 comments, and those comments, every single one of them is about somebody's personal story about when they needed the song. Where it kind of intersected with our world. John Michael Finley plays Bart in the movie. Amazing actor. We found him on Broadway. He was in Les Mis, playing the understudy for Jean Valjean. Beautiful singing voice. Does all his own singing. He was raised in a Christian home. His dad is a pastor in Missouri, and he's kind of since tried to figure out his own faith journey. But after the film wrapped and we finished filming, his mom suddenly got sick and passed away. And I got a call from John saying, I don't know if we can do this, but my dad has asked me to sing the song at the funeral. He said, I don't think that I have the strength to get through the song. He said, but is it okay if we play the song that we recorded for the movie for the first time at my mom's funeral? And
Wow.
so it just gave me chills to, that's the first audience that ever heard him sing it. And we were able to play it at the funeral. It was a sacred moment.
Yeah.
And it was a beautiful kind of journey back to his faith roots. And it was really, really cool.
It sounds like God is after that man. He's given him 2 stories. Les Mis, that story of redemption.
That
Come
is
on.
a beautiful story of redemption.
Come on.
Yeah.
And then I can only imagine.
Yeah, it's beautiful stories of redemption. It seeps in. I mean, you can't help but spend time with the material that long for God to work on your heart. And our cast, it's really neat to see God working on each one of them.
Yeah.
It's been an awesome journey.
God working, man. There's
Yeah.
nothing better than that. As you were listening right now, you probably have your own memory that is being triggered of when you first heard that song, or maybe it just came alive to you the very first time in a new way that just brought you to your knees in awe of our Creator God, the God of redemption, the God of forgiveness. And I'm so curious for the gentlemen here in MercyMe. You guys have been along for the entire journey, and how has this song become part of your story or been transformative for you? Whoever wants to step up to the mic here.
Yeah, I think Andy nailed it when he said everybody kind of has their own story and attachment to that song, and we've been so fortunate to hear countless. It's got to be tens of thousands of stories from people who lost a loved one or were suffering through a chronic disease or whatever. And one that always stands out to me, there's a lady named Miss Annie. She came up during a show, like we were kind of at intermission, and she wanted to share her story, and I kind of prepped myself thinking, I already kind of know what's going to happen here.
Right.
And it wasn't the usual story at all. It was that she struggles with like fibromyalgia and chronic pain, rheumatoid arthritis or whatever, to the point where she couldn't get out of bed most days. And she had gotten to the point where she just couldn't take it anymore and was going to take her own life. And she said she got in her car, and I don't know what her plans were beyond that, but she said as soon as she started the car, Imagine was playing on the radio. She said it was as if God was sitting in the passenger seat next to her, telling her it's not your life to take, it's mine. And I feel like the most beautiful part wasn't that like she was instantly healed of her pain. Like she says, from that time until the next time we saw her, she had, she's now walking with a cane and she wasn't before. And she just said, I just have hope. Like even in this suffering, that God's got a purpose for my life and for this suffering. And it's a beautiful story. And we hear those constantly, and like Andy said, people make it their own. God uses that song in different ways, for anybody who hears it, and it's been really cool. And now for people to see the story of where it really was birthed from a really painful situation for Bart, I think it's gonna bring healing in a new way to a lot of people.